So this morning I'm talking to a friend of mine, Tyrone, who moved to Panama from Chicago several years ago. He now lives here with his wife and four children, four girls. Tyrone also has his own business. It's a wildly successful concierge business that caters to the needs primarily of expats in the country. Everything from helping them navigate the Department of Motor Vehicles to get new license plates or a driver's license, to helping them with immigration issues, to car repair, and probably a thousand other things. So I wanted to spend a few minutes with Tyrone this morning because A, for those looking for ideas on how to generate income abroad, I think his concierge model is a really interesting idea. And B, if a country like Panama is in your plans, Tyrone is definitely a guy you need to know. So welcome, Tyrone, and thanks for giving me a few minutes.
Good morning.
So first off, Tyrone, tell me, how'd you end up here in Panama?
I was born in Panama in 1967. My mother's Panamanian, and my father was stationed at Howard Air Force Base. And in 1968, we went back to the U.S. as a family and to the Chicago area. In 1969, I returned to Panama with the idea of just taking a vacation and maybe taking my mother up on some of the suggestions that she's always had for me to know my heritage and my country. And so I did. And one of the things that I found is that there was a connection here. There was a connection with my insides and the realities of where I was. And I loved it ever since. I've been here ever since.
Great. And tell me a little bit about your concierge business. How did you get started, and what gave you the idea to cater to the expat market?
When I first came to Panama, I guess a few years after having been here, first off, I didn't speak Spanish. My mother didn't speak Spanish at home. And when I came here, the only language skill that I had was English. And so going into the workforce, I found that Panama was being sought after by offshore companies to work here. And so I started off working in English-speaking companies. That gave me an advantage. Actually, the salaries working with English is a lot higher than the average Panamanian salary. After working for them for a while, I decided that I needed to get out and do something on my own. I wanted to be my own businessman and make my own hours. There was a guy that has lived in the U.S., and he has excellent English skills. He began to explain to me how lucrative his business was, working with people who were building in Panama, who actually had homes, and they traveled back and forth. So they needed a house sitter, or they needed a pet sitter, or they needed, to have their license plates renewed. And I noticed that there was a difference with the customer attention that he was providing with what I knew that I could provide. And so I said, I'll give it a shot. The first customer I had was a guy who was moving from Altos del Maria, which is a mountain community, to Coronado. And he said, hey, I need some help. I need a moving company, and I need somebody to officiate the move. And so I went through my directory, I went through, my memory banks, and I found a company. I set up the move, and I actually helped officiate the move from one location to the next. And that's how it all started. He then referred me to other clients, and believe it or not, I have developed a very good clientele just by word of mouth. It's just like anything. If you learn to do something and then you help somebody else, they help somebody else, and they can help somebody else, and the chain goes on and on.
Right. So give us a sense of the types of services you offer.
Well, I've provided a wide range of services. One of the slogans that I use, when I advertise my business, when I do talk about my business, is that I like to consider it anything and everything Panama, because I could possibly do just about anything physically. But if I can't do it, then I'll find somebody who can. I have helped people in during bereavement processes. Somebody who was actually in the States at the time, and one of their members passed away. So I had to step in as an intermediate, helping officiating certain things here. I've done moving for people. I help on the import and export process. I help in buying a car, selling a car, the bureaucracies. You have to go to this office here to do that part, one office here to do that part. I help setting up utilities. I mean, there's just a wide variety of things. I'd like to consider that there's nothing that I can't do. Physically, there are certain things that I can't do and some things that are out of my expertise. But because I have developed a contact base, I can usually find somebody who can help, and I can ensure that from A to Z, things will get done for that individual.
Awesome. So give me a sense of what your typical workday is like.
Well, I've got a pretty busy schedule. I also, when I first started the concierge business, just to go back a little bit, I did some research on the internet. I tried to find out if there was any concierge business in Panama to get a model of what a concierge would really be like. I had my own ideas, but I just wanted to, actually match that to the reality. I found that there aren't concierge businesses in Panama.
Right.
I linked into some concierges that are attached to hotels. And I said, well, that's the idea that I have. What does a concierge provide at a hotel? They basically help a person who's residing at the hotel, needing their laundry, needing to know about hotel reservations, needing a ride from here to there, setting up a tour. And I said, that's what I want to do. I also found that there are international concierges that work with companies that help transition their employees from one location to the other.
Right.
And they take care of the A to Z. So I said, here in Panama, that service can be provided. I managed to link up with a company that worked in real estate. It's called Los Pozos Panama, and that's where the quote unquote concierge got its start, working with a company.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do there is not only help them with the administration of the business, I attend to the residents there and their basic or everyday needs, and some of the things that, when they're moving in, they need to get set up with lights, and they need to get licenses, driver's licenses, and, just a lot of different things. So it started off there. And then I began to offer the personal concierge for people who just want one particular job or a few different things done. When I get up in the morning, I usually have a schedule. I've learned that in Panama, you have to have a route or an agenda.
Yeah.
And I say if I have 5 different tasks, I feel successful if I'm able to complete 3.
Right.
And I laugh because here in Panama, things don't always work the way you want them to.
Right.
And in talking with Coley on previous occasions, if you don't place expectations on things, you rarely have stress, and you can actually deal with the Panamanian lifestyle. So if I get up in the morning, I'm usually going to the airport, and on my way back from the airport, I have a few 2 or 3 things that I do in the city, and then I make my route back to the Coronado area in which I live. That's usually how my day begins, and that's how my days usually end.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I've worked with you a lot, and you have to be incredibly busy. Tyrone's a guy that carries around 2 cell phones, and they are both always ringing off the hook, and it's amazing to me that he can keep all the balls that he has in the air. So tell me, what's the most rewarding and the most challenging things about running your concierge business here?
Well, the most rewarding thing for me, and I try to make this precedence, is helping people to get things done.
Right.
Of course, there's a monetary reward behind it, but the most important thing is that I want people to actually look at Panama as a place where things can get done.
Right.
They may not always get accomplished in the time frame that I set, but if I can help to be the link from one point to the next, when people can feel satisfied that, wow, I've went through that, then that's the most rewarding thing for me.
Great. And do you find it more challenging or less challenging to earn a living here in Panama than you would back home in the U.S.?
Well, Coley, one of the reasons why I felt a little overwhelmed in the U.S. was because it was becoming very challenging to succeed in the U.S.
Yep.
It's getting tough down there.
Yep.
Finding a job, buying property, um, just a lot of different things. And so when I came down here, I found that it was easier to do so.
Right.
Even not speaking the language, I thought that it was an obstacle, but I think that there are more opportunities to begin a small business. And if you have the right constituents here in Panama, the right pieces, and put them together, you can become successful down here.
Sure.
The economy helps out quite a bit. The dollar goes a little bit further, so you can live more comfortable down here with any kind of business, basically.
Sure. And how would you compare your quality of life now versus your quality of life when you were back in the U.S.?
Well, first of all, I believe that I've learned that the quality of life is not based on monetary value.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on a peace. It's based on feeling satisfied. And I've able to accomplish that here. I live in an area where it's very diverse. We've got people from all over the world, other Latin American countries. We have expats, the Americans and the Canadians, and there's different levels of incomes. And here, I think that I fit in. I've become part of the culture, and the culture has become part of me. And so when I think of what's most important, it's the level of peace and a peace of mind, basically.
Right.
And so that's what sets the tone for me.
Sure. But at the same time, the cost of living here is obviously less than the cost of living when you were up in Chicago, correct?
That is correct.
Yep.
I think when you can find yourself that the cost of living doesn't carry a burden, meaning that you can actually meet some of your needs without having to work as hard, that adds to your peace of mind. And here in Panama, I found that just by speaking English, I can get it. If I decide to go work with a company here in Panama, I can make 3 times or maybe even 4 times the minimum wage here in Panama.
Right.
By being bilingual, I can maybe make 4 to 5 times more than that. And so starting my own business, I was able to set myself up into an income level that's very comfortable. It's not, I'm not a millionaire or anything like that, but I can pretty much, attend to my daily needs, my
Sure.
family and things like that.
Sure. So Tyrone, any other advice for families that are considering moving to Panama?
Well, my main advice is this. It's good to do your research, okay? Try to set up contacts before you make the move.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you deliberate too long, you probably will never do it. But I think you also just need to go ahead and take the step.
Yep.
But make sure you have your contacts in place. A concierge or someone who can help you get through, the small little snags or whatever is very important. Make sure you have your network. You can do all the research in the world, but if you don't have the network in place when you get here, it'll be just like a fish, going into the sea with a bunch of sharks, and you'd have a hard time.
Right. So that's great advice. So one last question for you. So for
Mm-hmm.
folks that are considering a move to Panama, how can people get in touch with you if they need your services?
Well, first of all, my email is Tyrone, Tyrone, the number 2, GODIO at hotmail.com.
Okay.
Of course, they can get in touch with you, Coley.
Yep, they could.
And I'm working on establishing a website that would be able to provide more information to people where they can link into the website and contact me and send me requests or ask questions. That's one thing about me as well, is I don't mind asking questions, and I don't charge for answers and things like that. And then once you get here, if you do arrive here in Panama, my cell phone number is 6733 5091. And if you get linked into any one of the expats community, Plaid community, which is one, you'll hear my name in the circle. And so I'm readily available.
Great. So it's Tyrone, Tyrone, the number 2, GODIO at hotmail.com.
That's
Or
correct.
if they're in Panama, 6733-5091. Well, that's
Right. If you decide to contact me from Panama, I can receive calls from Panama. You would need to dial 011,
okay.
the area code 507
Mm-hmm.
6733
Okay.
5091. And if you leave a message, I will be more than happy to return the call.
Fantastic. Well, great, Tyrone. And as someone who uses Tyrone's services several times a month, I can tell you that if you are considering a move to Panama, Tyrone is a guy you definitely want to know. So do email him if you're considering coming down here, or give him a call. His services are outstanding, and he can help you through a lot of pickles, especially from as new residents or new folks that are coming down to spend some time in Panama. And if you're considering moving abroad and thinking about income opportunities, you might want to consider starting a concierge business that caters to the expat community. As I often say, generating income isn't really that difficult if you're focused on either filling a need or solving a problem. And Tyrone proves that it can be a profitable business. So, Tyrone, I really appreciate your time.
Coley, I really thank you very much for